Okay, hello everyone. We are here for Brussels Diplomatic. It was a privilege to be invited today at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Brussels with our Minister, Mr. Didier Reynders. Thank you for receiving us today. Mr. Reynders, you are the longest you have been the longest serving Minister of Finance in Belgium, in the history of Belgium, after beating the record of Frère Orban, Minister of the 19th century, also coming from Liège. Now you are Minister of Foreign Affairs. Can you say just some words about your very long experience as Minister?
First of all, it was a very interesting experience to organize some reforms. First, tax reforms in Belgium, of course, to try to organize the declining of the taxation on incomes, taxation for the companies, corporate taxation, but also other kind of issues to attract investors to Belgium. I mean about national interest deduction or the tax shelter for movies and so on and so forth. So we have tried to organize many tax reforms for the citizens in Belgium, the companies in Belgium, but also to attract a lot of investors to our country. The second element was so interesting is to discuss at the international level in the European Union, of course, but also in the IMF, in the World Bank, and so it was the beginning of my activities in the Foreign Affairs Department, if I may say, because I was doing 12 years as Minister of Finance, member of the board in the IMF, in the World Bank, but also member of the ECOFIN, of the Eurogroup, inside the European Union and the Eurozone. So it was very interesting to do that. On one side, I said, to organize tax reforms and to cut in the taxation, the very high level of taxation in Belgium, but also to try to be present on the international scene. And now I'm going further as Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also with European affairs and with foreign trade, because it's quite important to stay in touch with the companies, with the investors, and with the
Second World War, and before the creation of the European Union, Belgium decided to strengthen its links with, on the one hand, the Netherlands, and on the other hand, the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, by creating the Benelux. So Benelux is still existing, while we are now into the European Union. What is still the interest of being involved into the Benelux today?
I've taken the floor for the presidency of the Benelux organization at the ministerial level last year, so during the entire year 2012. Now it's Luxembourg who is in charge. And we have in fact three elements. First, we are going further with the integration, and we are doing more than the European Union. So we have more capacity to organize the same policies in the three countries than maybe on the 27 and maybe in some months the 28 member states of the European Union. That's the first issue. So better integration for different kind of relation. I mean about transportation, but also in police activities or in other fields. The second issue is also to try to be in touch with other groups of countries. We organized, and I organized last year, some meetings among the Benelux countries and the Nordic countries, but also the Baltic countries or the Visegrad countries, so a lot of other countries in the European Union. And the third issue is to take the floor with a common vision on in some different debates. I mean, in the European Union, we put some time on the table a proposal, a paper coming from the Benelux. It's the case for the budget of the European Union, but also in real international issues. I mean, to give an example, in Syria, since the beginning of the crisis in Syria, we have put on the table some humanitarian issues on the basis of a proposal from the Benelux. So we are stronger with the three countries than alone, and we have the capacity to discuss more with other partners. So it's very interesting to go further with the Benelux, and also I said at the first point, because we have a better and a stronger integration among the three countries than in the European Union or in the Eurozone.
Another institution which existed before the creation of the European Union is the Council of Europe, grouping the most countries of the whole continent, I think more than 40 countries. What can we do in the future with the Council of Europe?
To go further, and to go further in the real activity of the Council of Europe, I mean to defend the human rights everywhere in Europe, and also to defend democracy. To give an example, for the moment we discuss in the Council of Europe to have a real capacity to organize a dialogue between Armenia and Azerbaijan, because it's quite important to try to solve such an issue among the two countries. It's the same in Moldavia. And of course, there are many, many discussions, and I'm sure that it's important to have the capacity to such a council to be in touch with different countries to solve regional conflicts, but also to impose the same values everywhere on the European continent. I mean the human rights, and you know that in different parts of the continent it's not the case for the moment. So it's not the same composition, it's not the same activity than the European Union, and Belgium will take the floor for the presidency of the Council of Europe at the ministerial level in 2014. So we'll try to enhance our capacity to influence the evolution in Ukraine, in other parts of the continent about the human rights. And I'm sure that it's quite useful to do that. But of course, we need to do that with a better collaboration among the Council of Europe, the European Union, maybe other institutions on the European continent.
The Mali crisis, in the beginning of January 2013, France decided to answer to the demand of intervention by the legal government of Mali by sending troops in Mali, the 2nd REP and 21st Trima, and Belgium is also giving some technical assistance. How do you assess the crisis in Mali, and what do you think about, what do you expect of the solving of this problem?
It was important to act because we have seen that for the rebels it was possible to go to Bamako. So it was very important to stop the rebellion before the entry in Bamako. And then we have taken the decision to help the French army in such a process, and we are doing that with logistical activities, to CR-130, 2 helicopters for medical assistance, but also 75 soldiers on the ground to organize such a process of such a logistical assistance. So that's the first issue. But of course there are 2 elements in Mali. First, we need to go to an international operation, and with the different countries in the regions. And it will be possible in the next weeks maybe to prepare that with some partners and with the United Nations. But it's not enough to be present with soldiers on the ground. It's also more efficient to restart a real dialogue in the country, to restart a reconciliation and maybe another kind of organization of the country between the south and the north of the country. And that it will be quite important to us to explain to the population that the only one way is to have a new rule of law in the country. I will go to Bamako to explain that to the citizens, but also to the authorities. And so we will try to work on those on both sides. First, the army and the capacity to organize a very secure situation in the country, but also to open the floor for a real political dialogue among